Let's talk about some profitability metrics, starting with return on sales. And this is an indicator of the overall profit performance of the company. And it's net profit after taxes divided by net sales. So as an example of interpreting this ratio, if you had an ROS of 7%, return on sales, then you've got 7 cents in profit after taxes for every dollar of revenue. And is higher better? Well, maybe, but what if you have a very high profit margin because you have very low expenses in an area that you shouldn't have low expenses? What if you're, for instance, not paying a decent salary? What if you're not investing in R&D for the future, in IRAD, let's say? What if your prices are just too high relative to your expenses and customers are not going to be happy about that and eventually stop buying from you next year? Your high profit margin might not be sustainable. So higher isn't necessarily always better when it comes to profit margin. Here's another profit metric, return on assets. And this shows how the assets of the business are being used to generate profit. And it's calculated as net profit divided by total assets. So if you had an ROA of 5%, it means you're generating 5 cents in net profit for every dollar of total assets that you've got. And generally, you want this number to be higher rather than lower. But again, is higher always better? Not necessarily. What if you're overworking your fixed assets, your machines, your tools, your factories, but you have, as a result, a very high ROA? That could be a problem down the road because you may have unexpected maintenance or replacement costs that come up in the future, making that high ROA a very brief victory. This is a case where you need to be wary of comparing ratios across industries too. Comparing ROA between an aerospace and defense company and a retail banking company wouldn't be an apples to apples comparison. And let's talk about return on equity. This ratio shows how the capital contributed and also capital that is retained in the business is being used to generate profit. And this is a pretty important metric for any company, but especially publicly traded companies. A lot of investors and analysts look at this metric, and it's calculated as net profit divided by total shareholders' equity. So if you had an ROE of 12%, you're generating 12 cents of net profit for every dollar of total equity that the owners of the company have invested in the business and retained in the business, as opposed to taking out as a dividend.